In the previous video, we saw how to connect anonymously through the GIS object. In this video, we're going to take a deeper dive into the GIS class and how we can connect to any ArcGIS Online or enterprise-based system using the ArcGIS API for Python in version 2.4.0. So first we're going to do this import from ArcGIS.gis, import GIS. This GIS class is going to allow us to connect to enterprise or online. And a GIS class represents a single ArcGIS Online organization or an enterprise deployment. The GIS object provides helper objects to basically search, create, retrieve GIS resources such as content, users, and groups. The constructor for the GIS object takes multiple objects, multiple items, but the basic ones that you want to know are the URL, username and password, key and file, verify cert. Now, it should be noted that when set to false for this Boolean value for verify cert, it can create a security warning that pops up because you're no longer doing SSL verification. But in certain cases, you need to do this. Like if you're an administrator and your certificates need to be replaced. You can use a client ID, not listed is also client secret, and then profile. These are names of stored authentication information that's stored within your operating system's credential store. But it starts with anonymous, and it's the most basic way to connect. For an enterprise, you could just create your GIS object and pass in a given URL, and this will connect anonymously to any enterprise. So here I'm connecting to Python API Playground, and I'm just connecting to it without credentials. In the first video, we saw connecting anonymously to ArcGIS Online, and we just instantiated this GIS object with nothing, and we can see that it's pointing to arcgis.com. When we go ahead and use built-in, we have to provide a username and password. So we want to expand upon that anonymous workflow, and we want to log in. So we would create a GIS object like this. We would say GIS equals username and then password, and this would connect to ArcGIS Online. For enterprise, we'd do that same thing that we saw before, username and password, and then we'd go ahead and just provide that URL. The public key infrastructure or PKI security methods require you to create and manage digital certificates to manage your credentials. You can connect to any enterprise this way by doing GIS, passing in our URL, and then passing in our cert file with our password, with your password. Other authentication methods, which are fairly common, and they've been around since about version 1.8.0, is IWA and NT11 Kerberos. Now, Kerberos, if you're running on Linux or Mac, does require an additional step, which is outlined within the help methods, but this allows you to basically provide a username and password using a domain account and then some password. We spoke briefly about verify cert, but what verify cert does is it allows us to not examine the HTTPS certificates that are on there. So we can create any GIS connection and specify the verify cert to be false. One thing that you should consider getting familiar with is the idea of profiles. Profiles, like I mentioned before, are going to allow us to store our username credentials within the operating system's credential store. That means when you create various notebooks, you can share your profile name, but not the actual credentials. To create a profile, first you have to instantiate a GIS object and provide, say, your username and password along with your URL that you're connected to, and then a profile name. You would then go ahead and create a new GIS object and just refer to that profile, in this case, my first profile, and it would go out and it would connect to that organization, and then I could go through and connect as a verified user. So what we saw in this video is that you can easily connect to multiple different types of secure GIS methods using the ArcGIS API for Python. Another way to connect that before I end is that you can connect with the idea of connecting with Pro. Pro uses ArcGIS Pro's credential store for you to store username and passwords. And for Johns Hopkins University students, you would want to use the Pro login in order to handle connecting to your organization and using the ArcGIS API for Python that way. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I'll talk to you guys later. Have a wonderful evening.